Today's talk is titled From Head to Heart, to be delivered by Margaret Biggs. Margot's journey began in the Deep South, where her early years were spent exploring the natural beauty of North Florida. At 19, an exciting opportunity arose in the fashion industry, leading her to leave her southern roots for New York City. This opened doors to a world of travel and exposure to the rich art scenes of New York City, Chicago, and Europe. In Chicago, she embraced a new phase of personal growth. She married and started a family. In the mid-80s, she discovered yoga and meditation, practices that she continues to this day. Life took a sharp turn for Margot in 2009, causing her to return to her hometown with her youngest son. Despite challenges, she found a silver lining by pursuing her lifelong dream, painting. Dedication paid off as she gained recognition, winning awards and securing solo shows. During this time, she also cared for her aging parents, a commitment that lasted over 6 years. This period was followed by a joyful chapter, her marriage to Jordan. After a life marked by frequent relocations, Margot and Jordan are now settled here in Cambria. She's passionately dedicating herself to her art career, drawing from her rich experiences and building a beautiful life. Margot?
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you. The Native American Sioux tribe of the Great Plains also believe that the longest journey we can make in this life is from the head to the heart. Oh, excuse me. The Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The longest journey we'll ever take is the 18 inches from your head to your heart." In the context of this talk, the head refers to our capacity for intellectual understanding, as well as what Eckhart Tolle refers to as the identification with form. According to Tolle, the ego is the identification with thought forms, as well as emotional and physical form. Whereas the heart is a place of alert awareness without the influence of our hearts, of our thoughts. It resides in the place of awareness that has nothing to do with what we think and believe. It has nothing to do with our level of self-esteem or sense of self-worth, with how we look, with our sex or sexuality, maybe our accomplishments or our lack thereof. It has nothing to do with whether or not we are feeling pleasure or pain, anxiety or peace. In this context, heart has to do with the pure, spacious consciousness that exists ever so quietly within us all. Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Why do we operate from our heads the majority of the time? One reason is that until we're aware of the ego, it's in charge. Secondly, we humans have what is termed a negative bias. We often fixate on bad things because of this psychological phenomenon. It's believed that the negativity bias evolved in early humans as a survival mechanism to aid us in identifying and avoiding danger, thus increasing our chances of survival. As a result, our brains are wired to focus more on negative experiences, on criticism, on loss, painful memories, betrayal, and the mistakes we have made. as opposed to focusing more on the positive, such as praise, our accomplishments, fond memories, and the people we love. This negative bias can lead to anxiety, low self-esteem, defensiveness, and difficulty in appreciating what's good in our lives. And the ego, again, until we're aware of the ego, it's in charge. And yet the ego in and of itself isn't necessarily good or bad. A healthy ego can provide us with confidence, boost our self-esteem, and motivate us. It leads to self-respect and a healthy level of self-worth. An inflated ego, on the other hand, can lead to a sense of superiority, to arrogance, to an inability to receive criticism, and a lack of empathy. It can lead to self-importance, self-righteousness, a need to dominate others, and to constantly defend ourselves, even when there's no need. It leads to combativeness and anger. It strains relationships, and it can often destroy them. So what can we do to counteract this negativity bias, and how can we manage our ego? We can challenge our negative thoughts and replace them with more positive ones. From being bummed it's a rainy day to being happy it's raining at all. From the focus of how badly someone may have acted to their attributes and the many good things they may have done. When I'm in a disagreement with another person and I'm stuck in this endless loop of thinking about how poorly they acted, I'll think about the person's good qualities. Sometimes I'll even state them out loud, further embedding them into my consciousness. We can practice gratitude. As part of what I call my morning quiet time, I have a practice of writing out a list of things that I'm grateful for. I actively focus on the positive aspects of my life. We can practice mindfulness and meditation and learn to meditate. Both of these practices help us to become aware of our thoughts and our emotions. They help us to learn to slow down the thought process and pause before we automatically say or do something that is thoughtless or unkind. These practices give us an awareness to redirect a negative focus to a positive one. They help us inch towards a healthier mental state. Excuse me. In an effort to minimize the oversized ego, we can learn to remember that we're not always right, that another's perspective may be just as relevant as our own. We can practice humility through an awareness of our own limitations and shortcomings. We can practice by being selfless, by putting others' needs before our own. We can learn to be receptive to different ideas and perspectives. We can learn to be non-judgmental and to be open to criticism. Examples of humility are admitting when we're wrong, recognizing that everybody has strengths and talents. Humility is recognizing that we're not all-knowing and that everyone, even the most lowly, has something to offer the world. That there is something of value we can learn from absolutely everyone. Learning to rid ourselves of our negativity bias and loosening the grip of the ego are important components as we move from primarily operating from our head to the expansive regions of our heart. This all requires a conscious effort, and it's hard work. Yet, I'll argue, operating primarily from our negativity bias or an inflated ego, well, that's hard too. We can let go of the belief that you are your thoughts. Think about it. There was a time when you held firmly to a certain thought or belief, and since then, you've changed your mind. You no longer believe everything you once did, and beliefs are thoughts based on experience and cognition. Beliefs change, thoughts change. If you are your thoughts and your thoughts change, then how is it that you're still you? So that, oops. Oh, well. The 10th principle of Buddhist psychology is thoughts are one-sided and untrue. Learn to be mindful of thought instead of getting lost in it. Oh, there it is. I find it's helpful to think of our minds as tools. Just as our eyes and our hands are tools, we learn to use our minds instead of allowing our minds to run the show. We don't have to believe our thoughts. When we realize that we're the thinker of our thoughts, we can then learn to reside in the space that is a witness of our thoughts. Then we naturally cease to derive our identity from our thinking and our beliefs. The witness is a vast spaciousness within consciousness. It's a living experience, a transcendence of thought. Our minds are quiet, and we give ourselves the opportunity to get in touch with the part of ourselves that is much vaster than thought. The heart is a part of ourselves which most clearly perceives. So we need to recognize that we're not our thoughts and learn to disengage from the incessant stream of thinking we often get stuck in. It is then we can tap into the mental stillness and drop into our hearts. We can pause. That's another tool I've found to be useful in helping to drop into my heart center. It's the practice of pausing. From brief pauses to longer ones, it's a skill that's worth developing, and it is a skill. We'll be working against our current society where people are so often looking at their devices. With the immediate access we have to our emails, social media, and the news, we rarely give ourselves a break from the constant stream of information and entertainment that's at our fingertips. In learning to disengage from the busyness of our minds and slow down the incessant inner dialogue, it's helpful to disconnect from our devices frequently. I'll often turn my phone off and leave it in another room for hours at a time, and on Sundays, I do my best not to use it at all. A brief pause has a power to short-circuit what may be a habitual response. Remember, we want to learn to respond to people respectfully, as opposed to react, and pausing can help us to do so. My husband came up with a great tool to help him in pausing when he feels tension, when he feels the tension start to rise. He visualizes a 1950 painting by Francis Bacon titled Fragment of a Crucifixion. It's pretty spooky. As he pauses, visualizing this image, he realizes he has a choice to either be present and drop into his heart and calmly respond, or he could allow himself to be swept away with emotion and become some version of that scary image. More often than not, I simply use my breath, deep and slow, to calm my nerves and pause before I respond during a tough conversation. And personally, I'm a believer in prayer. I'll say a short prayer. And when I remember to, it works every time. I just need to remember every time. So then there are times when the stress of my job is too much or the news has gotten me down and some sad stories keeps looping through my head and I can't seem to just quiet my mind down. So I take a long, vigorous walk. This is a quote by Thomas Jefferson, which is, "The object of walking is to relax the mind. You should therefore not permit yourself even to think while you walk, but divert your attention by the objects surrounding you." It's really easy around here. It's so pretty. Pausing gives us a chance to disengage from the busyness of our minds. This is a key as we learn to drop out of our habitual reactive and compulsive thinking and enter into the still center of our hearts. It keeps us from falling into the mental autopilot, and it's a healthy way to help us handle life's challenges with greater skill. Another method I've used is what I call drop the sword. You guys may have heard this term, just drop the sword. We all get our back up sometimes, and yet there are those of us who are, and there's those of us that are more combative than others. I'm pretty conflict avoidant, yet there's times when I'm triggered, and I immediately get defensive. For example, growing up, I was told I was too sensitive. I've been told countless times that I'm too deep, which is like saying my skin is too pale. It's who I am. Hazel eyes, pale skin, sensitive. That's what can I say? So it was often dismissed, and I was sent to my room and told to just get over it. I never felt heard or understood. So as a result, if I'm communicating something important to my spouse and he doesn't look at me or confirm in some way that he's heard me, I get triggered. I get real defensive when there's really no reason to. He's just freaking making a cup of coffee. Anyway, so he's learned to gently call me out when this happens, at which point I can drop the sword. I just let it go. It takes practice, and I say that to myself, drop the sword. Drop the sword. But I'm improving. And it takes time to investigate where these triggers come from, and it often has something to do with how we were treated as children, triggers. Yet it's important to recognize them for what they are, some remnant of an unhealed past. Once it's recognized, we have the ability to heal and let these triggers go. And sometimes we're triggered by something as small as being cut off by a bad driver. I let go of that a long time ago. Bad drivers are very good at practicing mindfulness and learning to drop the sword. Why go there? So we cut you off. Why allow yourself to get annoyed? Just drop the sword. All of this is hard work again, yet living in a state of unconscious reactivity is hard too. So another important thing I've learned is to feel the feeling, yet drop the story. So there's times when someone we love or have held in high regard has disappointed us to the point that we have a hard time accepting this reality. It hurts so deeply that it often takes time to work through. So we repeat the story again and again of how this person has let us down. And it's important we don't suppress these painful emotions. They'll always resurface in some manner. It may be a short temper, persistent anger, or physical ailment. A disregarded negative emotion will continue to resurface and affect our mental and sometimes even our physical health if it's not recognized and worked through. Instead, we need to allow these feelings into our consciousness. We must recognize the pain, feel it, and then allow the emotional pain to pass. It only takes a few moments, yet we must feel it to heal it. Feelings are real. Anxiety, sadness, grief, insecurities, These feelings are real, and sometimes they're so strong that they even become physical sensations. For me, I experience a tightening in my chest when I'm feeling an intense negative emotion. It's heartache. It's the term heartache, and it's very real. It's like an elephant standing on my chest. Ooh. So for most of my life, I've ignored these feelings. There were people to care for and things to do. On the surface, my life was very, very good. To take off the rose-colored glasses and to see people for who they really are would have been too difficult for me to do. So I ignored what I knew deep in my heart to be true. If I had allowed myself to feel the disappointment, I may have been able to see these people for who they really were. Yet I didn't, and it cost me dearly. So feel the emotions and then drop the story. Feel and drop, feel and drop, feel and drop. It may be true that a person you held dear has betrayed you. My grief and sadness due to these certain realities is very real. Yet I don't have to hold on to the story. I don't have to continue to allow this sad story to keep looping through my mind. I recall the betrayal, I'm saddened by it, and all the loss that came with it. I recognize what is happening in my mind, and I feel the feelings, and then I drop the story again and again and again until it fades into the recesses of my mind. And eventually it's no longer ruling my emotions. It's just something that happened. Another sad story, just as everyone has their share of sad stories. In letting the story go, the healing process is accelerated. We lighten our mental load. So the ninth principle of Buddhist psychology is wisdom knows what feelings are present without being lost in them. So I like to think of my thoughts as visitors when I remember to. It's really helpful. So would I want this visitor to come over and stay a while? You know, if she's judgmental, harsh, critical, sad towards myself or another person, then no. I wouldn't want to spend time with her. So why do I allow these negative thought patterns to linger in my mind like an unwelcome guest? Disidentifying from our thoughts, learning to pause, dropping the sword, letting the story go. These are all methods we can use to help us learn to quiet the incessant chatter of our minds, get out of our heads, and enter into the spaciousness of our hearts. Rumi, the quieter you become, the more you will be able to hear. There's a transformative power to silence. As we quiet our busy minds, we gain the ability to deeply listen to others, and more importantly, we have the ability to tune into the deep knowing within ourselves. Silence can speak volumes. When we're insecure or triggered, when we feel threatened in some way, or we've fallen into a state of despair, we want to think we're in control, and thinking is our primary strategy. It's our automatic response, and it's how our species got ahead. Unfortunately, this can become unconscious, and then we become addicted. We become addicted to the thinking. We get stuck in our heads. We can use the various tools I've talked about as a way of loosening the grip of the ego and transcend thought. From there, we have the opportunity to drop into our hearts. It is letting go of thought. It's a falling away, which results in a higher level of consciousness and expansiveness that is our hearts. In ancient philosophy, the heart is a symbol for personal consciousness, intuition, wisdom, and love. The heart is where we find our compassion and our understanding. It's a part of us which most clearly perceives. If you go deeper and deeper into your own heart, you'll be living in a world with less fear, isolation, and loneliness. That's Sharon Salzberg. The heart is a part of us that consciously contributes to the world around us through our attitudes, our words, and our deeds. It is who we are at our best. Particularly during this divisive time in history, may we all find the strength to consciously operate from the depths of our heart. Thank you.